Well, thank you all for coming. We're really excited here to be presenting at RE Mars and debuting the Retriever, and also talking more about what happens under the hood to make basically our ability to move things both with different types of commands and extend the impact of individuals, but also including being able to move things with your voice, which we do by connecting our device with the Alexa system. So we have a lot to cover, but we're going to take it at a good pace, and if there's Q&A, we definitely can do that as well. So I'm Mike Dooley. I won't hit the mic anymore. I'm CEO and co-founder of Labrador Systems. A little bit later, my co-founder, Nikolai Romanov, who's my long-term CTO and partner in crime, will be up here to cover some of the technology in more depth. But we're going to start high level about the market need and why we're working on this, and go into the individual experience of the product, and then roll it into how the technology is enabling this new class of assistive robots to help people live more independently, something that we're very passionate about and think that we really need to be addressing in our society. So to give you some ideas, that we'll first cover an intro video. This is taken from individuals who participate in our pilot studies over a year and a half ago now, where they used the robot for 5 to 8 weeks in their home. So these robots, what we've had at the conference and at other locations, they aren't just demos. They are actually real robots that were in people's homes, using them and interacting with them, and getting a lot of data, and also really, we think, making a difference in their lives. Then we're going to jump into understanding the longevity market, which some people track and others don't. It's something that's, as you get into it and you have folks like my parents, and I start dealing with the issues of aging and folks needing more help, it's a little bit of a shock to the system. And what we want to do is sort of in a nice way explain what's happening now and what happens as we get older, and why we're working on technologies like this, so that in the future there's more and more options for all of us to live more independently and more happily. We'll go into our background, then we'll go into the robot, and then we'll go into the demo and the technology stack and everything from there. So it'll be fun. So first off, we're going to do our intro video. This is about 3.5 minutes, and it's 4 people. And I encourage you to listen to each one of them. It's about 45 seconds a person. All of them have a very strong personal story about how changes in their health or events really started impacting their daily activities, because basically, in a high level, gravity got heavier for them. You'll see them, you'll let them hear what they have to say, but when you're looking at them, I think what I look at is, I'm either seeing, the voice of my mom when someone's talking, or I'm seeing potentially, what my personal needs might be. And so I ask you to sort of just think about that this is most likely going to be a situation that in your family you'll be dealing with, and why it's so important, because it's just something that's going to affect us all. So we'll kick this off with the intro video.
4 years ago, we began working on a new type of personal robot. We designed it to physically assist people in their daily lives, especially where pain or other health conditions impact their activities. Our mission is to empower individuals to live more independently and to do more of what they want to do.
I feel very strongly about living independently and living on my own. I have 3 children who all invite me to be part of their lives, but I don't want to be dependent on them. And so anything that I can find that will help me do that is really, really valuable to my quality of life. It's my aide, it's my assistant. That's like a third hand for me. In my mind, I'm still 23, but my body isn't. And the robot lightens the load for me and allows me the time and the energy to do the things that are really still very important for me to explore. I still have a lot to do.
Alexa, ask Lab 1 to come to the dining room.
Okay, going to the dining room now.
Using a Labrador provides me a lot of independence, whether it's setting the table or getting the laundry into the washing machine. I'm not lifting anything, I'm not having to bend over, I'm not at risk of falling. It's providing me with the ability to do tasks that normally I would have to ask for help with. It's like having a second person in the house. It helps that much.
Some of the abilities that I lost following my stroke was the use of my right side. I've never realized how much I couldn't do anymore, but with the retriever, when it was introduced to me, it was like regaining that whole right side again, because I was able to carry and move things for me that I unable to do at this point. So it's given me that confidence level to where with the retriever, that's my right-hand buddy. You know, it's something that I look forward to and that I could say, hey, you know what, let's go on with life. Like, it doesn't stop here, it continues.
Doing the groceries is what you should be doing anyway. You don't miss bringing in the groceries, you know, things like that until you can't do it anymore. And to not have to ask for help, to be able to do it myself, not struggle with trying to lift a bag or put it on my lap and roll into the kitchen one at a time. I could get these things done. The independence and the freedom and just the self-worth of doing it, not having to feel that, you know, you're somebody's burden. The robot gave all that back.
Great. So when you're looking at that, you see individuals. That's Madge, it's Janet, Armando, and Tricia. Those are all individuals that we know their stories deeply. When we were in stealth mode, we were reaching out to different care organizations, doing Facebook posts, and it started off with just a phone call or a Zoom call about, hey, you saw something, what do you think, could this be useful for you? And understanding their need. And I think, what we do when you talk about like Armando saying, hey, I got my, this is like getting my right side back and I can deal with this stroke. I don't think by no means do we deal with 100% of the challenges he's facing. I don't think we even deal with about 5%. It's less than that. But that 5% is really important because it's 5% in the right direction. And I think whether you're someone that's, hey, you're in the 40s, really viral guy, and all of a sudden you have something happen you didn't expect, to someone who, like Madge, who is in her 70s and is dealing with rheumatoid arthritis as well as health conditions. And things like, doing the laundry is competing for her energy for taking time with her grandchildren. And so these are really sort of universal truths, I think, of the human condition. And we just hear the same story over and over in different ways. And that's why we're so motivated when we see people use it. First, what we talk about, and I want to hit on this, is about the longevity market. It's a little bit of a joke, but it has a little bit of bite to it. When I started pitching this product to Silicon Valley about it's 5 years ago next month, it was hard to get the empathy for this. And I think what I learned after a while is that most VCs don't think they're going to get old, they're just going to get rich. And I say that because I think sometimes we think of that too. Well, if I just plan ahead and I have all the resources and work out, which is really important, this doesn't affect me, this is somebody else. Yeah, that's not really true. We all are going to get old. Now, some are older than others, but we're all going to be impacted by this. And we've met some people that are incredible. I've met someone, that was in his 80s, that COVID was happening and was really upset because he couldn't be playing on the basketball team in his league. And at the same time, he had a wife at home that he was really worried about, of her ability to take care of herself if he wasn't around. And so it's either going to be something that's affecting us or affecting people that we're caring for. This is my personal story, and what really influenced me quite a bit initially this is in 2012, I'm getting married. That's my mom dancing with me, and she was really nervous. And she wasn't nervous about the wedding. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. She's been through this. No, that was no sweat. It's that she was using a cane by that time and starting to use a walker. And I knew she was doing that. I could see getting out, and we would park closer to the restaurant or do things like that. But what she was nervous about is that I can't take a step back. I can't turn here. That's my weak side. And dancing with her in that wedding, it basically was sort of like really, really hitting me that, her constraints. What were those things that she was struggling with? Well, it's 5 years later, she's full-time in a wheelchair and in a hospital bed, having caregivers into the home. And it wasn't a sudden issue. There was a blood clot. She went into the hospital, but not for stroke. They detected it early. And, great medication, great system. Like, there was no, chronic event, but there was atrophy from all the, the swelling and just being off of her feet, and then the pain and everything setting in. Went into rehab, again, like world-class treatment in terms of like physical rehab. But then when we got home, it was like 1930, because it was just my family, my parents, and us trying to figure out, well, what does mom need now? She can't walk anymore, and she's still otherwise healthy, but she needs all this care. Getting, moving her into the dining room, bringing in, a hospital bed, learning that you could get a hospital bed funded by Medicare, all these basic things. And I guarantee you, it's a hard thing, is that this is a shock to the system, especially happens when you don't think it's going to be doing it. But the part about it is that it's not unique. It's not like that was just an isolated case. 15 million Americans, adults 50 plus, use a mobility aid, such a walker, wheelchair, cane, to move around. And that percent increases as we get old. It's a pretty predictable number. Those charts there show the rates for both, for either individual items like a walker, cane, or wheelchair, as well as combined. The dots are my mom. So in her 70s, she started using a cane, and then into her 80s, she started using a walker, and then by mid-80s, she's into a wheelchair. And the news is she's still around. She's now 91, and she's still going strong. And this idea of getting older, younger, is that your health condition, and overall, the average that this works out is that my mom's experience is so much different than my grandmother. I remember my grandmother passing away in the 80s. She was in a nursing home for a few years, and then she passed away at a relatively younger age compared to my mom, who's now in the 90s. And the period by which my grandmother was in that condition was shorter. It was more compressed. So as we elongate our lifespans, we are in this state where we actually we're going to be using a cane for twice as long as a prior generation, or we're going to have health issues or other things that we're dealing with that need support. And that's complicated because all of a sudden you have a lot of individuals needing help either on a personal level from their family or from paid caregivers, and as well as on the health system. And this is where we've got a big problem. And the US has been behind other economies on this. So Japan's been the most extreme. You have Europe, now we're hitting it, and then China's going to have a weird inversion pretty soon that they're going to be facing this as well. So the challenge is that the fastest growing population in the US is 85 plus. Now, you don't seem to think about that when you go to Silicon Valley and see what they're investing in. You don't see that on TV or the hottest trends of products, but it is. That's the baby boom generation moving into that upper curve. And the folks that are our ages, by and large, that are 18 to 64, that are in the working population, and there's people that are working longer than that, but by and large, that mass of the working population, the folks that are available to either care for them or generate income to pay others to care for them, is flat. And so you can think, well, how do we do that? We have more people in this upper space, but we're flat in this other part. And the way we do it, it's almost like clutch adjustments. We keep squeezing out productivity in the system. So in the case of my grandmother, she stayed in that nursing home until she passed away. The system doesn't do that anymore. The system you have acute care in hospitals. We turn that around really quickly. If you're not aware of this, my father-in-law had outpatient hip surgery. It takes my car longer to get fixed than my father-in-law took to get a full one-side hip replacement. And then he does the recovery in the home. If he's not able to recover in the home, then they'll put you into skilled nursing rehab. And again, Medicare focuses on how they count the weeks, they count the days you're there, and they cap it. And so there's this pressure that we are more efficient now. We have better quality care, and we're also more efficient about it. But there is a cost to that, is that when we push people out into the system and we can get them back home, then there's this thing that happened with my mom, is how do we deal with this? And so now there's 53 million unpaid caregivers in the US alone. And that number is growing at 4%, exactly at the rate of the population above 85. And that's a problem because it's going to continue to do that. And if you're tracking, with COVID and everything that was happening, we're losing folks in the care sector. We lost over 200,000 caregivers in skilled nursing alone in the last 2 years. A huge loss. And when we talk to folks in those industries, they are desperate for help. They are short-staffed, they are calling in temps, and they don't have enough people to do that. So we're at this influx where we have a huge need. We have just, that's been now, it's a crisis upon a crisis, as people have talked about it with what's happened into the industry. And then we have a chance to use automation in two different ways. One is to help people be more active and more independent so that they can push that sort of heavier needs side off even further. Could my mom be more independent? Could she be walking around further and doing more before she got to the level she had? Or could we identify some of the risk factors so she could even earlier treatment? And then as we have folks get to the state my mom is now, could we extend the impact of caregivers to both give her more control over her daily life, but also relieve the burden on either family members or paid caregivers? So our background really quick, and like why hopefully you may believe we have a shot at doing this is our attempt to do a three-peat. Myself and my partner Nikolai, we've both been in the robotics and in his space, in aerospace and automation for quite some time. I go back to the 1990s. I launched Lego Mindstorms. So I was the original product manager and marketing manager when that was just a little skunkworks project. And back then we had a big, big vision. We were a small group at Lego that very few people thought would be successful, but we thought that we could change the world by creating a new tool for kids to think with. And it did. The product we launched was the best-selling product in the history of the company and still is, and millions of kids have used it. And that was sort of it was not just my impression on robotics in a very basic way. I finally learned that driving a motor too hard could purge the firmware out of the memory of a robot, and that everything is linked. That sort of system level complexity that's both very frustrating at times, but incredibly intellectually challenging and interesting as well. But it also was basically showing the social impact of making a change at scale. So 10 years later, Nikolai and I have now connected at a company called Evolution Robotics, and we're launching with a bunch of other of our friends a product line called Mint, which is now still on the market and is called Brava. Brava was actually one of the first smart robotic floor cleaners that could track where it cleans, and actually the first smart mop. And the significant part of that wasn't that it could mop your floors. That was really important because that caused people to buy it, but that it was for a very low cost, could localize in a very complex environment. That was a progression. Before that, at that time, Roomba was random. And so 2 years after we launched, Roomba acquired us. So iRobot acquired us. Mint became Brava. The same product that we shipped in 2011, 10 years later is being shipped today by iRobot. That thing's got a lot of ROI in it. And then on top of it, the algorithms that we had both for Mint and also for the visual SLAM system that Evolution and the engineers there pioneered now are what make Roomba smart. And iRobot's gone on to do a lot more than that, but that foundational autonomy came from the work out of that. And so when we're looking at what we were going to do next, we saw that, well, we can progress. I can go from a toy to a floor cleaner to something bigger. And what's happening is there's the technologies from other categories are enabling us to go into that space. And we'll get more into that as we go through it. So our mission here is really to do a practical robot for the home. You'll hear this. I mean, the thing that, how to say this, we're not the Hollywood of robotics. When I used to do Lego, we had the base robots that the kids would be able to build, and then the videos would be all the stars that within the Lego ecosystem that could do like the hero models, a robot that could solve a Rubik's Cube or climb, a rock wall or Lego rock wall at least, or sort M&Ms. Now that's not what a 10-year-old could do starting with the product, but they were so motivated by that. And we're all sort of always infatuated by the spectacle, about making something that has a face or has something that looks like us or walks interesting or things. And the problem is that we can get so infatuated that we actually don't make robots that do things. And so that's something that we have to really sort of be ingrained in is where can we make a difference and what's the mission? So in our mission, it's make a robot that practically does things that make a difference in people's lives, but at the same time has to be ridiculously affordable compared to the other technologies that are out there so they can afford it. And so I think what we're trying to communicate here is that Robotics is moving in a different direction. We are getting serious in terms of this, serious in terms of the skills and the technologies that are being applied and the problems we're trying to solve. And when I go out to the healthcare systems, a lot of people expect that we're going to roll that out in front of them, that we're going to have a robot with hands that's going to come in and help move people, carry them out of the bed, change clothes, all sorts of stuff. And I don't think we're going to see that in my lifetime. The pace that robotics work and the technologies, they're very impressive, but it's sort of like the airline industry. When I was 10 years old, I took a flight out to Los Angeles in the first time, and yes, that plane was a lot different than the planes are today, but it was about the same time, about the same seat, and it's same view outside the window. Robotics is better than that, but we're not at this level of being transformative, of having devices that are going to basically take on human capabilities at a one-to-one scale that can support people. If the people working on those, they're great, but they're 20 to 30-year R&D projects. I'm trying to make a robot that can help my mom before she passes away and help all these other folks that have been testing and are asking for their robot back, by the way. So here's our view of this, and this starts from figuring out what you have as building blocks and what your application is and what your core need is. A lot of folks, when you start talking about care, they go to that sort of left side of the screen where, hey, I can make a robot that replaces a person. It could cook, it can clean, it could reach up to high shelves, it could carry heavy loads, it could go out and dump the garbage. And the problem is we don't have that. We're just at we're looking at the other robots like Agility or with Boston Dynamics. They are just starting to pierce into industry where they are talking about some very high cost solutions, like Boston Dynamics talking about solutions that might be like in an oil rig or at a power plant, or having something at scale, like having Agility that could do package delivery 24/7 out of autonomous car and be used over and over for the same purpose. The problem is that type of economy doesn't happen when you're talking about putting one robot with one person in the home. And the joke I had when I was talking to someone in the senior living is that right now Amazon uses the robots to bring the shelf to the pick and place point where an individual does the loading. And you don't have a robot doing that. You don't have that last step. Even that task where you've got a structured environment, a shelf that's been laid out by the company, lighting that's controlled, a whole workstation, and an employee who's trained, they can't basically replace that with automation yet. And basically the joke that the senior living person was saying, well, if Amazon ain't getting it, Mom sure isn't, in terms of like having that capability. So we have to start from this idea of grounded in what can we do? And the other part is, what should we be doing? And that's what the second question, I find a lot of folks in robotics don't answer that. It's like, this would be really cool, but is it what we need to be doing? And so this is where we get into this idea of having a robot that's assisting versus replacing. I'm not trying to make a device that's going to do your laundry. I'm trying to make a device that's basically helping replace the function that's messing up you from not doing your laundry. So that capability to carry a basket that's 20 to 25 pounds is what breaks for a lot of people. For most everybody in that video, if you watched it, they don't have the ability, or it's very straining or risky or everything else to carry the laundry. Therefore, they don't do it. Or they do it at a cost. It costs manages her time with her grandkids because she's tiring out doing it. And so, or it costs, Tricia, who's in a wheelchair, it costs her a sense of her dignity because she's always having to ask for help. And so what if we could just do that one task? What if you can do, like we had in the video with Madges, the robot that can be large enough that you can put an empty laundry basket on it, send it off to the bedroom. You can use Alexa or use your phone or a tablet or a button. And it goes there and it parks right where your laundry is. Or we have a video of this with Tricia. She stripped the bed. It parked right next to the bed. In her wheelchair, she's taking off all the dirty linens, popping them on the robot. The robot's low because she's low to the ground. And then she sends it off to the washer dryer, to the laundry room. And then she can basically step by step load in, do the wash, do the dryer, and then take the items out one by one. The same problem we've heard, like a 40-year-old guy with a stroke, is the exact same issue I heard with an 80-year-old gentleman, very proud guy, former Vietnam vet, former retired police chief with MS. And he had the same comment when he saw the robot, is all he does right now is fold the laundry because that's the only step he can do, and his wife has to do everything else. And his ability to do just, hey, if I can replace that function, then we can do, then he's a lot more capable of what he wants to be able to do. So this is an assistive robot. This is something that's meant to lighten the load of daily activities, bring critical items within reach, water, medication, your cell phone, or other things that you want to keep close by. Enable hands-free commands using Alexa and the power of that ecosystem to plug into what we're doing. And then longer term, we think we're basically enhance other applications for home health. So the way it works, and this is, we've got some patent pending stuff on this, but the genius of this is that it's so simple, is that the way you do it is there's a set of locations. For users, we call those bus stops. And the bus stops are the place you want it to go. Robotics, we call those waypoints, but bus stops sound a lot more cool. And there's a bus stop is basically anywhere you may want to send the robot. Send it to the kitchen, send it to the laundry room, send it to your side of your bed so it parks at night as your bedside table. That metaphor is super simple, it's universal. Everybody has a location where they're sitting and the robot can be close by. And the robot from that point will then self-navigate from one point to the other. Those blue lines, they're elastic, so it can basically adjust like a pilot adjusting around a storm using the sensors that see obstacles. And what you then do is now you have this sort of routine that I can tell when people are using the robot, like for the R&D projects, we have it on Slack. So the robot chats with us. And so there's a gentleman up in San Francisco. I could see he was getting up early in the morning, sent the robot to the kitchen, sent it to his desk. He's making coffee. Someone's sending it to the laundry room 2 times a week, or multiple times, but happening on 2 times a week. They're doing their laundry. It becomes pretty simple when you start figuring that out. But if I would know if I have an indicator of, hey, my mom is up and they're active, but I'm not spying on her and she's willing to share that information, man, that's a lot more relief than calling and not getting an answer or worried that something's going wrong. So what we did with that is we placed these robots in people's homes for up to 8 weeks, and we just let them use it. It took us usually about 2 hours to train it on the environment. The system's not optimized for speed yet. This was it was really optimized for function. And they would just go at it. And without a schedule, without any requirements, they could have used it 0. And what happened is most cases where people engaged with it, they were using it 90 times or more per month. Now, again, my background is product development, and it's like, that's amazing. You take a product that didn't exist, there's no precedence for it, you pop it in there, you give them an engineering interface, nothing that's fancy, and they engage and they use it persistently to do things like go and get the Instacart order. That idea of bringing in the groceries wasn't on our list. It wasn't an example. They didn't see the video you saw before. They wrote that video effectively. There's the scene with the taquitos and tortilla soup. That came because it was late, I think it was a Friday night. My wife's was late for home. I'm hungry for dinner, for waiting to make dinner. And I get this video of them having this great tortilla soup and taquitos, and using it to carry around to sort of set to have dinner while they're watching TV. And so other cases like tidying up, things that we think like, Tricia put it really well. You don't think about, you don't miss doing, carrying out the garbage or, bringing in the groceries until you can't do it anymore. And then it becomes something you miss a lot. And so those are the things that this basic engagement that we show that we just hit this raw nerve of a very sort of strong unmet need. So where does this go? Well, once you have that, once we have this bargain, and this is one of the few technologies we go into like age tech, like this isn't just sitting there with a camera to monitor if you fall or checking like whether you're staying in your bed or other not stuff. It's actually helping you. And because of that, it spends a lot of time next to you. It's the whole idea we had for a vision why we call the company Labrador. We wanted this to be sort of this trusted, loyal, and actually subordinate, being in your home that you could feel comfortable by your side, as if it was your loyal dog that's there. It's why it doesn't look like a robot. It's why it's got wood paneling, all sorts of stuff. And it's why it adjusts in height so that it's not out of place depending on the situation. But if you have that equation and people are naturally using it, then you get a lot more, because now you could start saying, well, let's add some skills, just like Alexa has skills. Why don't we bring, let's say, telehealth connectivity? I have a whole story about my mom. She has an Echo Dot in her room, and I bought that because everyone was forgetting to turn out the light when they would leave, the caregivers or my dad, and she couldn't get up and turn it out. So really simple. I said, hey, Mom, here's this device, and you could tell it, and she was curious about it. She's not a tech adopter, and I said, well, what do you want to call your light? Well, I call it Mom's lamp. And from that point forward, it's like, Alexa, turn Mom's lamp off. Alexa, turn Mom's lamp on. And that was great. It was like a very empowering thing for her. But at the same time, I said, well, there's another model that has a screen. And we could send you pictures from the trip and chat with you. Like, she's like, oh no, this is the room where I get bathed and changed, and no, I don't want that. And then I said, that was sort of the inspiration for this, is like, well, what if we bring the screen to you when you want it, and we take it away when you don't? And that's the same sort of social principle about when we go into a room or not, or if the caregiver's there and we're respecting her privacy. Medication reminders and adherence, physically bringing something to someone. We have a gentleman who's on our wait list up in the Seattle area, a wounded warrior. Like, this guy is not lazy. He's actively competes in competitive archery, even with spinal injury, and didn't make the cut, but he was trying to make it to the Olympics in Sochi on the last round. And he says, like, even I have an app, it reminds me to take the medication, I click it, I'm fine, and then I get distracted by something shiny, and then I realize, oh, it's three hours later, I'm off my cycle on it. If you physically present the medication to them, someone gets distracted, it's still right there. We had this story where Armando was doing laundry, and he sent the robot off to the laundry room and forgot about it. And so then he's walking later that afternoon, and he sees the robot with the laundry basket sitting right next to the laundry room, and he goes, I gotta still do the laundry. So this idea of physical reminders, we have out of sight, out of mind, out of reach is there. Now we have out of reach, out of mind. And so helping people who just really core things like stay hydrated, because you're constantly presenting them with water or fluids, or a nice cold drink if they want to get it. And from there, we have a platform that's pretty much the smartest device in the house. So we could go back in time, and I could have the robot using its wonderful 3D cameras and stereo vision to look at my mom walking. And it could have probably identified that she was starting to walk differently when that swelling was happening. And that would have been great to flag for her, great to flag for the family, and great to flag for the doctor. So it didn't even get to a blood clot. So she could have gone to physical therapy earlier. That's our vision. Make life better and let people stay in their own home environment, but increase that quality of care, increase that quality of life and support. Now, the data behind this is building as we go, but the consistent pattern we see is this whole idea that people bond and use the product. And so this was an interesting example. We were doing these charts of activity because the whole first question when we started rolling the robot out is, would people use it? And then if they would use it, would they be consistent? Would it make it into a routine? And for most people, we saw this sort of thing where they would spike. Some people used it a crazy amount in the first few days. Like, they were just playing with it. But then it would level into a trend. And so from there, we would normally see that we average out around 3 or 4 times a use a day without reinforcement, without scheduling, even without retrieval. This is just a base model which you can send around to things. What was interesting is we saw this one individual that was spiking. They were using it a lot on certain days and lower on other days. Now that spikes continued, so she was still really using it the same amount per month, even in the second month of the test, but she kept on doing it differently. And so this is a woman in her 40s with early onset Parkinson's. And if you're familiar with Parkinson's, there's what they talk about being on and off. Being on means that you're in your zone. Your symptoms are the lowest that you sort of reach. You have more control over your body. When she's in her zone, she can talk, and I can hear about, she can probably get a word out that I can understand in about every 3-4 seconds. She also has control over her wheelchair. She can be moving around when someone else is not in the house and be more active. When she's off, and it's hard to watch, and we don't take a video of that because it hits us, but we don't want to exploit it, is that it's 15 seconds for her to get a word out, even sometimes that her caregiver can understand. At the end, when the caregiver leaves, And that's, on those days, gets put on a mattress in front of the TV with a blanket, with water, with a cell phone, and the robot next to her, and she's waiting for the next caregiver shift to start or for our sons to come home. Tough stuff. And the interesting thing, we're talking to her about it, and she was super, she was adamant about getting this robot. She's the third user we had, and she was just a wonderful person to work with, is that we asked her, it's like, why are you using it more on certain days and not others? And is it that you're going out for therapy? Or are you doing certain things? Or she says, no, those are my on and off days. And my on days, again, are ones she's moving around and more active. The off days, she's not. And so what we were picking up was her on and off cycles. And I said, well, would you be willing, does your doctor actually ask you to track your on and off cycles? And she goes, yes, and I've never figured out how to do it. And at that point, her caregiver, who's been on all the calls with us, goes, I'd love to see this because I'm with her, Monday to Thursday, from in the afternoon or morning to afternoon, and then I don't see her the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend. And to see this, I could tell that, hey, are we having an issue? Is there something we tried with new medication or therapy that's something coming on, or is she just in a bad spell? So the idea, there's a give and take. If we make a product that people want to use naturally because it benefits them, then the system can benefit from that because it gains us access. It gains us an insight that we can't have before. I talk like this till I'm blue in the face to folks in healthcare about this. And when we made Mindstorms to try to help kids sort of expand their thinking and basically get smarter by building and programming robots to do what they want, we didn't start by trying to teach them something. We started by trying to get them to use the robot and build it and motivate them. That once they did that, there wasn't anything on our side we can educate them about. It's their brain and their ability to sort of construct the world and everything they understand. And so it's a different approach. And so what we're documenting is that this approach will work. It does work. And it can have incredible advantages of keeping independent and saving cost in the health system, either by identifying issues early or by reducing the cost of care as people progress. So that's a lot about us. I really appreciate that because we haven't had this venue that's that long of a time to say that, but this is significant. This will affect your life, either personally or as the folks around you. So on that note, I'm going to bring up Nikolai Romanov, my CTO and co-founder, can come on up, and I'm going to let him go through some of the technology of this. And I'll chime in at times too, but I'm going to let him drive for a bit and give myself a break there. So come on, Nikolai.
Hi, so my name is Nikolai. I'm Mike's CTO and co-founder. So yeah, he talked a lot about the product, but so let's talk about what makes it tick. So there we started basically, we have a background in a lot of an industry and in consumer products. And so what you see on this slide, there is a lot of activity happening on the technology side for commercial robots, which are deployed in Amazon warehouses and on the assembly lines. And those robots, we use fairly expensive technology which has been around for 30, 40 years by now. It's mostly LiDAR-based navigation systems, which basically scans the environment, does the matching, and knows that way where it is. And those robots were great, but they can move fast, but they're not as safe as what needs to be at home. And then on the lower end, there is all this technology which go in Roomba and vacuum cleaners and code. Those are really inexpensive, so those robots cost on average $10 to $50 a month over their lifetime. So commercial robots, on the other hand, they start at multiple $1,000s and go to as expensive as $10,000 to $100,000. And yeah, those organizations can afford it. And there is this big opening in between. That's where we fit in. So it's a robot this size, what you see here on the stage, which now with technologies available today, which are coming from augmented reality and using the SLAM design to sort of position the player in the room, they can be used to position the robot in the home. And at the same time, technologies developed for that, like depth cameras, we allow, again, inexpensive obstacle avoidance, so the robot can safely navigate in the unstructured environment of your home and go around the obstacles, around pets, toys left on the floor, or if somebody pulls the chair. And what it allows, we're using commercial hardware coming from this technology. It's from the cell phones, like chip processor, from augmented reality. It's all this development in SLAM, which can run on those processors really efficiently and inexpensively. So we can build something like that, and it can navigate and find its way around your house, and it be like in a prices like in $100 like to a few $100s. So it fits right in between. So that's what basically how it looks. So what it does, it uses inexpensive cameras and it looks for visual features in the environment and it learns it. And that allows it to navigate through and build pretty detailed maps in which it can instantly recognize where it's located in your house. So it's like what you see, it's basically the robot navigating, like early prototype navigating, I think it's in my house. And on the lower side, it's that, so what we call sparse 3D representation of like second floor of my house. And it's basically fairly accurate. And we can run it all on the edge. So we don't need like, we don't use any cloud. So it's like inexpensive processor coming from like cell phone can process all this visual information, build the map, and can do it all on board of the robot. So it's even like, it's like important for the home, and if like people start to rely on it, so even like if there is no internet connection and the power goes out in the house, it still can run and find its way around and go to the bus stops. So here like we have like a little video which shows, again, it's like in early days, like an early prototype. That's when we've been actually driving the robot through one of the places where we've been testing. And it's in real time on this hardware builds this 3D representation of the house, which looks a little bit like a matrix, so it's like sort of cool. But yeah, each of these dots, it's like a unique visual feature, which the software recognizes, maps, and then can use to navigate and instantly know where again it's located in the house. So yeah, it's, I'll let it play a little bit. Yeah, and what's important here, it's that for our application, yeah, we do like setup once. So we bring the robot in somebody's space, and we drive it through the environment, and it can like build this map. And then regardless of the changes in the environment, you turn on or off the light, you know, the sun comes out or it's complete darkness at the night, it still can operate. So we have a National Science Foundation grant for like advancing this technology versus what augmented reality does. Because augmented reality designed just to operate in a fixed environment of the house. You normally have like, you start the game and you play for like 10, 15 minutes, maybe like half an hour, and the Lightning environment is the same. And even if it changes and it has a problem, you can always like restart the game. For the robot, yeah, we have to bring it in, set up the map, and it has to be good for operation for like long periods of time, for like months or years, and regardless of all the lighting environment. So they have like some advances where we like, again, because the robot is big, we're carrying like infrared light, and we're using that, we normalize visual appearance of the environment. And it allows us to run the augmented reality SLAM and use it for navigation like in any condition. So then again, on a higher level, like Mike was saying, we're trying to do it, to make it like very simple for end users to operate. So all these complexities are hidden. And so here's like a basic the flow. So it's like you can think about that robot as a simple IoT device or like home automation device. So all it can do, you can send it like from location to location. You can send it like go to the kitchen or something, or you can ask it to bring something to you. And so on a command flow, it's again, it's all these complexities are hidden. And yeah, it's like you issue a command, you can use like voice application, you can use Alexa, you can use like simple web interface or application on your phone, or we give them simple IoT buttons, and you can just push it and the robot will know to come to that location. So again, what it it's get enabled by this SLAM system, which instantly, the robot always instantly knows where it is in your house. So and once you give it a command, it has those pre-programmed paths, and it will try to follow it as close as possible. When using these inexpensive depth cameras, it will avoid the obstacles which can be around in your house. And if it's at all possible, it will get to the destination. And when it arrives to a destination, again, it can execute some simple actions. It can give you like a reminder, like Mike was talking about, tell you know it's time to take your medication, or time to take your blood pressure. And you can ask, or it can like retrieve things. Yeah, like here we have like a demo where like the robot can retrieve the drinks from a refrigerator, compatible refrigerator. I think like one of my guys can start it. Yeah, and that's what basically happens. The robot will navigate to the location and then execute a simple action, so it knows it can like pull the tray out and then bring it to you. So let's see if it works. We've been running it like on the show floor for the last couple days, so and see if it like. Guess it's decided not to cooperate. Just fine. We'll see if it will work. But anyway, but then we basically can see on this video, it shows what happens inside the robot when you give it a command to go somewhere. So on the left, you see like the input from the camera, and it's like, again, we're running some simple like object recognition. But what you see on the right, it's like occupancy map and the reach like depth field, which coming from the depth cameras. So that shows basically you see like the house, and you see how like the depth cameras show where all the walls are, where all the obstacles is. And what you see like with green line, it's a flight path. It's this bus route Mike was talking about. And that was like pre-programmed, but that's again, the robot like tries to follow it and will avoid all the obstacles. And there's all these like inexpensive sensors, cameras, processors, which coming from consumer electronic devices. We enable like this rich perception, which basically enables the robot operate very safely and predictably in the house. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. We'll let the demo run and see if it's like works correctly. So here's like, again, it's like probably a little bit too much details, but that shows like a basic software stack which we're using to make it possible. And here again, like our thing, it's background in the consumer products. And when we started that, we wanted to develop the product. We really didn't want, we were thinking that we can go and find all the technologies which we need out in the wild. And when we started evaluating those technologies closer, yeah, there is a lot of tools, there is a lot of building blocks developed by the community, but there is like certain missing ingredients. And that's sort of our philosophy. So we're trying not to reinvent the wheel. So we're using Linux, we're using CROSS, we're using a lot of like vision algorithms which are coming out from the community, and we're just adding those missing pieces which are absolutely necessary. Like we said, like augmented reality SLAM is great, but it doesn't work well in different lighting conditions. So that's the part which we had to augment and make it better. So same thing, like on the ROS, there is a lot of modules which already do like path planning and allow you to send the robot around. But a lot of them like really optimized for commercial environment or for the larger robots. So again, we do just these like little pieces, missing pieces which we're bringing in. And so that makes possible to build the robots which have performance similar to those of like industrial and commercial robots, but at a fraction of the price, like 1/10 of the price or even lower. So yeah, the demo seems to be seizing up for whatever reason, but we have like this video that's basically the robot doing like retrieval from the compatible, what we call pallet. You can put like the pallet anywhere, it's just a simple piece of plastic, and it can pull the tray, which can have like anything on it. You can like pre-stage it, like in this case, like there is some water and the blood monitoring cough. And that's, again, can act, that's what Mike was saying, as a reminder. Yeah, when it's time to take the blood pressure, it can know it will go and retrieve that tray, bring it to the person, and act as a physical reminder, and when we're done, it can take it back. At the same time, yeah, you can if the people have high need, it can be pre-staged with snacks, drinks, cleaning supplies, and you can always ask the robot to bring it to them. And all the complexity of the system done for the retrieval, it's on the robot side. So those pallets and trays are very inexpensive, and you can add them throughout the house or facility as needed. So it's yeah, we've done a lot of testing on it. That's this picture illustrates how we've been testing at night and making sure our visual navigation can operate and work in any kind of a condition. Again, it was funded by NSF, so we're very appreciative of them recognizing what we're doing. And so that's in a brief about the technology. And so what our next steps are, right now we have those robots you see here, those we built 6 of those prototypes. So we've been deployed combined for over 18 months in people's homes. And people were using them, individuals, up to 8 weeks at a time. So we're right now engaged with a factory doing optimizing design for manufacturing and expecting to have evaluation units coming from the factory later this year. Again, hopefully supply chain will finally start to ease up and we can build more of those robots. It's always frustrating to see that we have it's all within reach, but all this situation delays, keeps delaying, then we can have more hardware. So that's pretty much it, in a nutshell. So I guess we'll open it up for some
Yeah, and we're
Q&A.
rebooting the demo. So we've had demo guides affect us where we had a great run for the last 3 days down on the floor. Yep. But we'll do this to see if we can get one good take of that so you see how it works. But yeah, if there's any questions, we can address that. And as Nikolai was saying, some of the other points are, one of the things is that we've kicked off a national tour with Nationwide. So they're really one of the pioneering companies in the insurance industry looking at this space. And they're doing that because they have long-term care insurance where they fund all the things for care that a lot of things that Medicare and others don't take care of naturally. Robots cycling up again right now. We're expanding our pilots in our homes as well as group care settings. Every time we go to talk to senior living, it is labor, labor, labor. And so we're looking at ways that we can help folks both in independent living. That shot of the robot you see there in the garage, that's actually an independent living community where folks have cottages. And that's a wonderful place. You have the benefit of a community, but you have your own home, your car, and do your own cooking, a lot of just really nice amenities for the support you need, but also the independence you want. And so there, they literally first thing they asked us is, can the robot go out to the garage? And we're in LA, and most of the time in LA, the garages are notched down below from the bell to the house because the house is usually raised. And in Michigan, when they built this community, everything is accessible. So it was a level set from one place to the other, where the robot could actually navigate all the way out to park by the car, so that even someone who's still going to the grocery store and driving can basically carry items from place to place, and then send it back. So that was actually the robot self-navigating. The bottom picture is a whole different world. Same actually organization, but basically has the ability to have the robot operating in skilled nursing, so the other end of the spectrum. See, the trick is with the robot on a demo is not to watch it while it does it. Just keep on talking, and then it's very happy. So just a tip from the future. So anyway, so really happy to be here. We'll be expanding our pilots and looking at more insights for the data. And then pretty much we're going to open up here to QA. We can either take it here or off, or now that the demo is now decided to be all fun and working, if you want to come up and see the robot, we can show you that too. But any questions before we wrap it up on the video part? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yes? Can you say it louder? No, and it's not because Really, really no. And the challenge is that no one has tried to go into this space. I think the folks that are looking at senior care had a fully different view of what a robot should be. So the people that have put a lot of money on it, they put it on arms and actuators and trying to have a robot do the dishes and things like that. And, which is valuable. Everybody from Toyota to Google is doing really like PhD and beyond grade work there. But those are long-term R&D projects, and they're well away from productization. So, the mission here is it's this intersection of, okay, what can you practically do that's going to make a difference in people's lives and can be made in mass production and be affordable. And that takes everything that Nikolai talked about. First rule is we have to use only components from things that you can buy in Best Buy or Bed Bath Beyond, and then glue them together. And we're solving problems like in AR reality. The patent we just got for that was this persistency of the environment on those features. Well, somebody making a headset playing a video game, they don't really care that when you really reinitialize the headset on your room, did that have to be consistent with what it was like 2 years ago when it was trained in bright light and now it's dark? Those are problems they weren't trying to solve. So I think we went after an area to say, well, this was this logical gap that this $10, $20, $30 robot per month cost versus that $1,000 robot per month cost. And that senior living doesn't have robots because they can't afford them. They can't afford what's in the hospital. So it's a long answer, but no one is competing with us yet, and I think in a meaningful way. There's some folks that are doing the commercial side for delivery robots, like in restaurants and other places. But and what we've put on here is really designed for, it's the world of having the robot left alone, either with a family where they've got a 5-year-old that may want to jump on it and take it for a joyride, or a cat. For some reason, cats with robots like riding them, or someone like my mom who's on blood thinners and can't have anything sharp that she could get hurt by. So I think we started from the ground up and said, hey, where's this issue that we need? What are those key performance requirements we need to solve? And then what are we putting into the robot and the design? Like something you don't see in industrial robots is every hard surface on this robot on the outside is pressure sensitive. If someone leans on it, we know, because we don't want it walking away while they're doing that. So there's just a lot of, it's sort of a journey of complexity to make it simpler and simpler for dealing with those environments. And I know you're probably, a good chance, we announced at CES last year, you'll probably see some folks starting to put wood paneling now on robots. Maybe that'll be the trend, and they can easily make a boxy robot. No one can stop doing that. To do the stuff we're doing to make it reliable and do things every day, I think that's a lot of work. And so that's where it'd be great to get some competition in there to sort of get more attention to it, but it really is an underserved market, and that's why we're hoping to raise awareness around it. Cool. All right. Okay, I think we have 6 seconds, 5. That's going to end it right there. If you have more questions, feel free to come up and we'll show you the robots, show you the sensors, run the demo up here in person, and then talk outside too. Thank you so much for inviting us and being here at RE Mars. Cool. Okay, thank you.